House Stokeworth is a noble house from the Crownlands, sworn directly to King's Landing. They live at the nearby castle of Stokeworth, just north of the capital. They blazon their arms with a white lamb holding a golden goblet on a green field. Their motto is, "Proud to be faithful." We do not know much about the house's origin, or if they come from first met or Andal descent, with House Stokeworth's first mention of note in the histories of Westeros coming during Aegon's conquest, in which they surrendered their castle and lands to Falena Targaryen and her dragon Maegor after they burnt the castle roof. A Lord Alan Stokeworth was named hand of the king to Aegon the Conqueror in 34 AC, when King Aegon decided the Aegon fort was to be torn down and a new red keep built in its place in 35 AC. He gave the task of overseeing it to Lord Alan, who would report directly to Queen Falena Targaryen. Even after the death of King Aegon in 37 AC, Alan continued to serve as hand for his son, King Aenys I Targaryen, leading a force into the Riverlands to hunt down Harren the Red, but he was slain by the rebel. During the last months of his reign in 48 AC, when the realm began to turn against King Maegor the Cruel in favour of Prince Jaehaerys Targaryen, his nephew, the rightful king, Lord Stokeworth was one of the few lords who gathered at his command. However, when Maegor mysteriously died upon the Iron Throne, Lord Stokeworth fled to his seat, fearing repercussions from the new king. When the new boy king Jaehaerys Targaryen resided at Dragonstone in his minority, Lord Stokeworth was one of the several lords who travelled to the island to speak with the king, and in 51 AC, King Jaehaerys began his first royal progress with a visit to Castle Stokeworth. The late Lord Alan's daughter, Samantha Stokeworth, was a constant companion of Rhaena Targaryen during this time. Rhaena was the king's elder sister and one of Maegor's infamous Black Brides. She attended Rhaena's sham wedding to Andro Farman at Fair Isle in 49 AC. Later, in 54 AC, Samantha was among the women poisoned at Dragonstone by the jealous Andro, much to Rhaena's distress. When the Targaryen Civil War, known as the Dance of the Dragons, began in 129 AC, the then Lord Stokeworth was among the lords at court imprisoned for being loyal to Rhaenyra Targaryen instead of her half-brother, King Aegon II, and his Green faction. When brought before the King's Justice, however, Lord Stokeworth was one of the few lords to swear fealty to Aegon. Sir Criston Cole would later march on Castle Stokeworth, demanding the Stokeworths to add their strength to his own as proof of loyalty, before marching on to Duskendale and Rick's Rest. After the fall of King's Landing to Rhaenyra, Lord Stokeworth attempted to swear fealty to her again, but Rhaenyra had him beheaded for his disloyalty in turning cloak in the first place. Prince Daemon Targaryen suggested having Lord Stokeworth's youngest daughter inherit over his younger son, even proposing to marry her to Ulf White, a dragon seed, to reward his loyalty. Taking Lord Corlys Velaryon's counsel, Rhaenyra allowed Lord Stokeworth's son to inherit Stokeworth towards the end of the war, when Rhaenyra fled the capital after the storming of the Dragon Pit during the Moon of Madness. The Castellan of the young Lord Stokeworth granted Rhaenyra hospitality for one night, and one night only, when King Aegon II retook the Iron Throne after Rhaenyra's death on Dragonstone. He had the young Lord Stokeworth brought to him in chains and demanded obedience, only freeing him after taking hostages and a ransom. Levies from Stokeworth, Rosby and Hayford would later abandon Lord Boros Baratheon during the Battle of the King's Road, with the Stokeworths then declaring for King Aegon III soon after. In the year 133 AC, during the regency period of King Aegon III, at the age of 8, Lady Falena Stokeworth was considered a potential match for King Aegon III following the death of Queen Jaehaerys Targaryen. Before the Maiden Days cattle show, however, Falena fell down some stairs and broke her leg. It is believed that the hand of the king and Aegon's regent, Lord Unwin Peake, was behind the accident that caused Falena to fall, hoping his own daughter would be chosen as queen. By 149 AC, Falena had become the first mistress of Prince Aegon Targaryen, the future King Aegon IV, known to the pages of history as Aegon the Unworthy. When she was found abed with the prince, 2 years later, she was wed to Sir Lucas Lothston, who was subsequently named as the new Lord of Harrenhal. Prince Aegon paid frequent visits to Harrenhal for the next 2 years that followed after the death of King Baelor I Targaryen in 171 AC. Lady Maya Stokeworth suggested his uncle, King Viserys II Targaryen, had poisoned Baelor the Blessed to gain the Iron Throne for himself. In 193 AC, the then Lord Stokeworth apparently was overthrown in a melee at King's Landing by Sir Arlen a Pennytree, and then in 209 AC, Sir Samuel Stokeworth participated in the tourney at Ashford Meadow. A few years later, when Lord Brendan Rivers marched on White Walls to quash the Second Blackfyre Rebellion, House Stokeworth provided men and marched with him in support. During the events of A Game of Thrones, Lord Peter Baelish, known as Littlefinger, the then Master of Coin for King Robert Baratheon, is often invited to dine with Lady Tanda Stokeworth and her daughters. Lord Baelish believes that Tanda hopes to marry him to Lollys Stokeworth. However, he admits that he'd rather marry a pig than Lollys, but asks Eddard Stark not to share this with Lady Tanda. In a later meeting between the two, Lord Baelish again mentions he's on his way to dine with Lady Tanda. This time he expects to be served a fatted calf, and he mocks that if the calf is half as fatted as Lollys, he would rupture and die. Lady Tanda is considered by Littlefinger as a possible ally for him and Lord Eddard to depose the Lannisters from power after King Robert Baratheon's death, but ultimately is not part of Eddard Stark's attempt to depose the new king Joffrey, who is in fact not Robert Baratheon's true-born son. During the events of A Clash of Kings, Lady Tanda Stokeworth is one of the few remaining courtiers after the beginning of the hostilities with the North in the War of Five Kings. She attends the tourney for King Joffrey Baratheon's 13th name day with her two daughters, falyse and Lollys. She cheers on Prince Tommen as he rides against a child-sized leather warrior stuffed with straw and starts hounding Tyrion Lannister the minute he arrives at the Red Keep, trying to coax him during a lavish meals to marry Lollys. Tyrion repeatedly tries to dodge her invitations. As supplies are getting short in King's Landing during the War of Five Kings, Lady Tanda and Lord Giles Rosby's lands provide half of the food still arriving, as they lie close enough to the city that they are still untouched by the war. Lady Tanda and Lollys are part of the procession to see Princess Marcella off to Dawn. When the mob goes mad in the streets of King's Landing, she is saved by Sir Horace Redwine, but her daughter is not so lucky and left behind. Lady Tanda is half crazed about her fate when those who escape reach the Red Keep, and she begs the King's men to locate her daughter Lollys. It turns out that Lollys had survived, but was sexually assaulted by a group of men behind a tanner's shop in which 50 men were said to have participated. Tyrion Lannister and Varys discuss options of bringing Tyrion's lover Shae to the Red Keep without Queen Regent Cersei becoming aware of it. Varys informs Tyrion that he knows that the maidservant attending Lollys had been stealing jewels from her, pointing out that Lady Tanda would be forced to dismiss the girl if he informed her of this, opening a position for Shae. Tyrion likes the idea of Shae working for Lollys, in particular as Cersei considers Lady Tanda tedious and her daughter dim-witted, and thus is not likely to pay them any friendly calls where she could inadvertently meet with Shae, after Tyrion has Lord Giles Rosby intercepted when he, on Queen Regent Cersei's orders, tries to smuggle Prince Tommen out of the capital. Lady Tanda is apparently worried that her own request to leave to return to her castle will be rejected. She makes Cersei the gift of a pig, now a rare sight in the starving city, and Cersei believes it's meant to be a bribe. As they dine on the pig, Tyrion and Cersei discuss the idea, and Tyrion says he'd rather have Lady Tanda stay at the Red Keep, and suggests that if she wants to feel safe, she should bring her own garrison to King's Landing. Falyse brings a small number of soldiers from Stokeworth to King's Landing the day before the battle. During the Battle of the Blackwater, Lady Tanda stays in the Red Keep with her two daughters, and they are invited by Cersei to seek refuge with her in the Queen's ballroom at Maegor's Holdfast. Sansa Stark runs into them on her way there and realizes that she cannot avoid them, and observing how Falyse tries to coax a resistant Lollys onto the drawbridge leading to the Holdfast, Lady Tanda announces with a brittle voice that the battle had begun. When Sansa offers her assistance with Lollys, Lady Tanda flushes with shame and rejects the offer kindly, excusing Lollys' behaviour by pointing out that she has not been feeling well recently, while the truth is Sansa knows of the rumours that Lollys is pregnant. After a meal at the ballroom, she and her daughters, with others, ask for leave to go to the sept, which is granted by Cersei. After the battle, together with her daughters, she attends the presentation of heroes and captives in the throne room. During the start of the events seen in A Storm of Swords, Lollys Stokeworth is now visibly pregnant, hiring a singer to try and calm her baby's kicks. Lady Tanda offers Lollys as a wife for Tyrion to Lord Tywin Lannister. However, Tywin wants Tyrion to marry Sansa Stark to assure Lannister influence in the north. Lady Tanda is a guest at the wedding of Joffrey Baratheon to Margaery Tyrell. She gives the king a pair of supple riding boots. She leaves the throne room while Joffrey is drawing his last breath, meeting Sansa Stark as she flees. After the events of the wedding and Joffrey's murder, Sir Bronn tells Tyrion he's expected at Castle Stokeworth for dinner, revealing he'd been offered to marry Lollys. Tyrion suspects a plot by Cersei to get Bronn out of the way, and points out that Lollys is pregnant from another man and that she won't even inherit Stokeworth when Lady Tanda dies. Rather, her elder sister would. Bronn is not bothered by the baby and makes the ominous suggestion that falyse might die before her mother. This makes Tyrion wonder whether Cersei has any notion of the kind of serpent she has given Lady Tanda to suckle, and if she would even care if she knew. During the events of A Feast for Crows, Lady Tanda remains at Stokeworth with her daughters once Lollys becomes too pregnant to travel, transmitting her excuses to Queen Regent Cersei that she cannot attend Lord Tywin's wake via her daughter falyse. She asks for permission to name Lollys' child after Lord Tywin, as she admired him above all other men. Cersei strongly objects to this idea, telling falyse that she does not want a bastard resulting from sexual assault to bear her father's name. Falyse is shocked about the fierceness of the rejection, but her husband, Sir Bolman Birch, assures Cersei that he had already told Lady Tanda as much, and that they'll find a more suitable name for the child. Grand Maester Pycelle informs Cersei that Lady Tanda has sent news that Lollys had delivered a strong and healthy son and that the child's name is Tyrion. Lady Tanda insists the choice was not hers, but rather Sir Bronn's, Lollys' husband, which causes the Queen to think Bronn is a traitor. While travelling from Stokeworth to King's Landing, falyse is refused hospitality at Rosby by the ward of Lord Giles Rosby, and is also disturbed by sparrows on the road. Once falyse returns to the capital, Cersei plots with her and her husband, attempting to use them as a tool to rid herself of Bronn. While still at Stokeworth, Lady Tanda falls from her horse when her saddle girth bursts. She shatters a hip in the accident. A stable boy is chastised for this, as he should have seen the strap was worn. Lady Tanda is attended by Maester Franklin, who is assuring her daughter falyse that he is doing everything he can. Cersei and falyse's plan to kill Bronn backfires when Sir Bolman challenges Sir Bronn to single combat, and Bronn kills Bolman in an unchivalrous manner. Bronn hits falyse and orders her gone. She returns to King's Landing, pleading with Cersei to give her men to retake her castle. Queen Regent Cersei inquires about the condition of falyse's mother, with falyse suggesting there's little hope and they have started praying for her. Cersei fully expects that Tanda will be dead before the moon turns, as women as old as she do not survive a broken hip. However, she assures falyse that she will pray for Lady Tanda. Lady Tanda's condition at the time falyse informs Cersei that her plot to kill Bronn has failed is not known. As Bronn has thrown falyse out of Castle Stokeworth after killing her husband and has now styled himself Lord Stokeworth, falyse wonders what will become of her and her poor mother now. However, Cersei thinks that Lady Tanda might very well be dead already, as Bronn doesn't seem the kind of man who would put much effort into nursing an injured old woman with a broken hip. Lady Tanda does eventually die from a chill brought on by her injuries. Cersei, fearing that the failure of the plot to kill Bronn would undermine her position, gives falyse to Qyburn instead, and tells him that falyse should never see the light of day again. When Cersei contemplates sending her back to Castle Stokeworth to reclaim it from Bronn, Qyburn tells her that she is not even able to feed herself, much less rule. By the time of the events of Dance with Dragons, falyse is said to be dead, screaming in the Black Cells, due to all of Qyburn's tortures and experiments. And until the Winds of Winter, that is all we know of House Stokeworth.